With the Temple Mount controversy a number of weeks behind us, I'd like to reflect on what to my mind is a critical insight into understanding what the Temple Mount and Yerushalayim are all about. I have to say, I came across a number of years ago in a book of speeches of Amos Oz, one of Israel's leading writers and intellectuals, How to Cure a Fanatic, an insight about Jerusalem that shocked me to the core of my being. I could not believe how such a deep thinker could, in my mind, say something so superficial and clearly miss the mark. He says as follows: essentially, the battle between the Israeli Jews and the Palestinian Arabs is not a religious war, although the fanatics on both sides will have us believe that it is. It is essentially not a religious war, not a war of cultures, not a disagreement between two traditions, but simply a real estate dispute over whose house this is. Really? Jerusalem is just a real estate dispute only in the realm of politics? It's got no religious component? How can one say that? Professor Benny Morris, the famous left-wing historian, authoritative historian on the 1948 war, in his book on the 1948 and the First Israeli-Arab War, disagrees. He says as follows: he says that historians have tended not to see the religious component and appreciate how important it is in this entire conflict. He says, this is a mistake. And I quote in his conclusion, the 1948 war from the Arabs' perspective was a war of religion as much as, if not more than, a nationalistic war over territory. He continues, the evidence is abundant and clear that many, if not most, in the Arab world viewed the war essentially as a holy war. Of course, it's the religious component. Everything about Yerushalayim at its core has got something deeply religious and spiritual about it, as is the mission of the Jewish people. This answers, to my mind, it brings to the fore a critical question in this week's parsha. We know that a number of times in this week's parsha, and indeed throughout the Chumash, Moshe and Hashem do not reveal to the Jewish people which is the place, where is the place that the temple will be built. Only in King David's time do we find out that the Holy Temple and all of its service will take place in Jerusalem. Jerusalem was known to be holy, but why is God and Moshe hiding from the Jewish people that specifically Yerushalayim is the place? Every time it talks about the temple in this week's parsha, it says, B'makom asher yivchar, the place that I will choose, the place that I will show you. But I'm not telling you today. Maimonides' Rambam in Guide to the Perplexed gives two very important answers. Firstly, he says, if the place was revealed, then the nations of the world would have ganged up on the Jewish people. They either would have destroyed any vestige of Yerushalayim, or they would have fortified it in such a way as to deny the Jewish people any type of sovereignty and access to it. Like then today, the world fully understands. Islam and indeed all of the nations of the world understand the religious importance of this place to the Jewish people first and foremost, and indeed to all of humanity. And therefore, they understand that this needs to be challenged. Most importantly, I think the answer on a positive note is the second and final answer that Maimonides gives. He says, you know why it wasn't revealed not to the Jewish people, not only for the nations of the world, because the Jews themselves would have quarreled and squabbled over it. There were 12 tribes, and if the 12 tribes found out that the temple was going to be built only in one or two of the tribes' portion and not in theirs, it would have caused tremendous discord and machloket, and therefore it could have only been revealed to the Jewish people when there was a king, King David, hundreds of years later, who was able to unite them and have the authority to implement it. At the end of the day, so much of the issues facing the Jewish people and the world is less about the external political ramifications, as important as those are, but first and foremost in the realm of the spirit. If we can agree on the importance of what Yerushalayim means to us and create one narrative around that within the Jewish people, then we will find place indeed for all of the nations and their part within Yerushalayim. Ki beiti beit tefillah yikarei l'chol ha'amim, says Yeshayahu. Ultimately, Yerushalayim and the Temple Mount will be a place where through the Jewish people, all people connect to it. May we get our act together, because when we get our act together, somehow everything else falls into place. Shabbat Shalom.